Hello and welcome to my channel. Today's video we are going to be making this cute mini Max. His body is all one piece, and then we're going to have to put on his little collar and do a little bit of embroidering, attach his ears, attach his horn, and then I've also made him in the plush yarn following this exact same pattern. For this video, I will be using a number 4 medium weight yarn, a 4.25 millimeter hook, and 10 millimeter safety eyes. And for the plush version, I used a number 6 blanket yarn, a 5.5 millimeter hook, and 14 millimeter safety eyes. This is a crochet along, so I will be doing every stitch with you. And I am also providing a drop down at the top of the screen with the pattern instructions for the first 30 seconds of every row for you to follow along with. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you'll also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. Okay, I think that's everything. So grab your yarn and let's get started. All right, we are going to begin at the top of the head, and you can start your rounds any way you prefer as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be making a knot with a loop on the end. So what I do is I fold my yarn in half. I'm going to pinch it up at the top, wrap that around my finger, down and through to make my knot. I'm going to pinch that loop, and then I'm just going to slide that knot up so that my loop is just a little bit bigger than my hook. Insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And remember, that does not count as a stitch. That just attaches our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, we're going to do 8 single crochets into that loop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then pull that tail if you need to close that hole. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we're going to do 8 increases. So that's 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around for a total of 16. So increase 1 and 2 in the same stitch, increase 3 and 4 in the same stitch, increase 5 and 6, increase 7 and 8, increase 9 and 10, increase 11 and 12, increase 13 and 14, increase 15 and 16. Row 3, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase, repeat that pattern all the way around for a total of 24. So 1 single crochet for 1, 1 increase for 2 and 3, and then repeat that around. 4, increase 5 and 6, 7, increase 8 and 9, 10, increase 11 and 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, increase, 17 and 18, 19, increase, 20 and 21, 22, increase, 23 and 24. Row 4, we're going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 5, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 6, we are going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 7, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 8, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 9, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 10, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 11, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 12, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 13, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 14, we are going to start off with 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're going to do a double crochet cluster of 4. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to go into that next stitch, grab your yarn and pull up, grab your yarn and go through the first 2 loops on your hook. So that's 1. Yarn over in that same stitch, grab your yarn and pull up, grab your yarn, go through the first 2 loops on your hook, 1, 2, yarn over, go in that same stitch, grab your yarn and pull up, grab your yarn and go through the first 2 loops on your hook. So you have 1, 2, 3, yarn over, go in that same stitch, grab your yarn and pull up, grab your yarn, go through the first 2 loops on your hook. You'll now have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to grab your yarn and go through all the 5 loops on your hook. There's your little cluster. And then starting in the next stitch, you're going to do 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to do another double crochet cluster of 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go through all those loops on your hook. Then we're going to do 4 single crochets across. You may have to push those little stitches out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now another double crochet cluster of 4. Yarn over. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then through all those loops on your hook. Another set of 4 single crochets across. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another double crochet cluster of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we should have 4 single crochets to finish off that row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 for a total of 24 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 1 right, let's take our hook out. Now we're going to add some eyes and some stuffing. So grab those and get those ready. Okay, so I'm going to start off by marking off the row we're going to be going in. I want it to be as centered as I can get it. And starting in this first loop where you started, it's going to be row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just between rows 6 and 7, actually might be right in the middle here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of line our eyes up just on top of our paws here in that same row. So I'm going to start on right there. So I'm right above the middle of my paw. Grab my other eye and I want to make sure I'm in the same row. And we're going to count over. So if this is 1, where our eye is, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in that 6th hole. So we're in hole 1 and 6 with 1, 2, 3, 4 holes in between our eyes. And just double check that you end up on the above the other paw on this side. And if you think you have them where you want them, we'll just put the backs on. And now we'll add a little bit of stuffing. We want to stuff it fairly firm, but we don't want to stretch any of our stitches, so you don't want to see your stuffing. Sometimes when you have really thin or finer number 4 yarn, which is what I have right now, I do stretch the stitches a little bit. But we want to try not to do that. Alright, you want to stuff it about 2/3 full. Oh, this really wants to pop out. So you want enough in there so when you do your last couple rows, you don't have to add a ton more stuffing, but you also don't want it in your way when you're finishing off the last couple of rows. So let's get our hook back in. Our next row, we're going to be going in the back loop. So instead of normally going underneath the stitch, underneath both those V's in the stitch, you're going to come down in between the V's and you're just going to catch these back loops and you're going to leave these front loops, and that is what's going to make our bottom go flatter so that he will sit. All right, so for row 15, in the back loops, you're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, repeat that all the way around for a total of 16. So 1 single crochet for 1, 1 decrease for 2, single crochet for 3, decrease. The stuffing is just not, sorry, so we're still on our decrease for 4, single crochet for 5, decrease for 6, single crochet for 7, decrease for 8, single crochet for 9, decrease for 10, single crochet for 11, decrease for 12. Whoop. Sure, I grab all that. I'm still on 12. Single crochet for 13. Decrease for 14. Single crochet for 15. And a decrease for 16. Now I gotta shove all that stuffing back in. If you need to add more stuffing, you want to do it now. We only have one more row left. And when you get to the very end of your stuffing here, you want to be kind of pushing it out into these corners. Oh, I must have tipped that a bit. So it'll stay flat and doesn't round out on you. You can put a little bit in on the last row if you need to. Which I think I'm going to have to. So I'm just going to stick my fingers down inside, kind of push it out. So when I add that last little bit of stuffing, I can just go up into that hole instead of having to worry about all the sides. All right, get our hook back in, and for row 16, we're just going to do 8 decreases. So 1 decrease, 2 decreases, 3 decreases, 4 decreases, 5 decreases, 6 decreases, 7 decreases, 8 decreases. And then you're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch. Tie that off. Leave yourself quite a bit of a tail in case you want to come up and make a little loop or something for hanging. And then also, if you need to add a little bit more stuffing, we'll do that now too. So I'm just feeling where I need to go, if I have a little space there when I stick my finger to the side. All right, I think that's good. Okay, now we're going to do the little collar, and we're going to be attaching our yarn. You can attach your yarn any way you prefer, but leave yourself a little bit of a tail before. And I'm just going to make my knot with the loop on the end. And then we're going to be putting it between rows 9 and 10. So we're going to start by counting at our beginning loop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So right here between rows 9 and 10. And we're just going to follow that row all the way around to our back center. And I'm going to be starting right here in this stitch. So let's grab our hook, and I'm going to put my hook into that stitch around that one stitch in that row. Grab your yarn, attach it onto our hook. Pull it through. And then we're just going to start by doing slip stitches all the way around in between those 2 rows. So we'll go back down into that stitch right next. Do a slip stitch into the next stitch. Do a slip stitch into the next stitch. Do a slip stitch. It's a little tricky when you first get started, but once you get going, you'll get a little bit of a rhythm. We'll just do that all the way around. Whoops, I caught a bit of stuffing. I'll have to fix that later. While I'm doing this, I'm just going to remind you that I have a Facebook craft page that you can come over and visit and share anything that you've ever made with me. What you'll have to do is go down into the description. It's the first link at the very top. And then you can just come on over, find a post. Most people go in the post for what they made, so if it's the reindeer, you'll go find the reindeer post, but you don't have to. There's also a post pinned at the very top for YouTube comments and photos. You can use that as well. You don't have to join or follow or anything if you don't want to. Okay, we're getting close to the end here, and you're just going to have to make up your own little kind of stitches here to get back up to the top. So I'm going to go around this one, and then I'm going to do a kind of slanted stitch from the bottom row to the top row. And then, if you can, try and get in that first stitch. And I can't, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tie off, and then I'll use my tie off thread here to go around. Now, I think I do this different every single time I do it. So we'll thread that one end on. I'm just going to bring that last stitch over and kind of go under my first stitch, and then just bring them together. You might have to come back around one time to make it look more even. I'm going to go under both of those V's there. You kind of look like you have another stitch in there. And then I'm just going to come under here so I can tie it here and put it out the bottom, just so my two ends are together. I'm just going to give it one nice tight tie. You can tie it as many times as you want. Thread your ends on. I was making something the other day and I realized I don't have to be cutting these ends. When I leave this bottom open like this, I can just be stuffing them back in. So that's what we're going to do on this one. It's just one less step. So I'm just going to put them back in, up inside. We'll be hiding those at the end anyways. And now we'll just do his little dog tag. So grab whatever color you're using for that. What we're going to do is we're going to come up into the center, kind of underneath of his collar here. So come up the bottom. I just want to make it so that it looks like it's coming from the collar. So you may even want to grab a little piece of that red there, or whatever color you use. I don't want to go right in the middle. Let's see, I'm just going to grab a tiny, tiny little piece. Leave a little bit on the bottom for tying. Ooh, I got a lot there. Then I'm going to come straight down. I'm going to be going around this row right here. So I want to make sure I'm right close to that row, and I'm going to come in the middle, make sure it's straight down, and then come right over. I'm going to go this way, go whichever way it pulls. So one way it'll kind of pull over, so if you're a little bit off, mine was leaning that way, so I'm going to pull it this way and it'll kind of straighten it out a bit. And then we're just going to wrap around this one stitch here a couple of times. So one, just so you can kind of get it rounded. Two, maybe one more time. I'm going to go up. I'm just kind of stacking these on top of each other to make it more rounded looking. So I went 3 times. Give it a pull if you need to. And then we'll tie that. Mess of strings. And because my end is so long, I am actually going to cut this one. So cut it or tuck it in, whichever you prefer. All right, now we're going to do his eyebrows and nose all with one single strand. So grab a little extra than you might normally use. We'll thread that on. And we're going to start by coming one row up from the eye and just on the inside of the eye. So right about here. So I'm just going to mark that stitch with my finger, come up through the bottom, and go into that stitch. Leave enough yarn on the bottom for tying, and I'm going to come down one and over one. Then I'm going to match this stitch over on this side, so I'm one row up from the eye, just on the inside. And then again, down one, over one. And now I'm going to come up to make the nose in the center, so I'm going to find my center hole right there. And I'm going to be putting my nose ends on each side. So I'm going to come up here. I'm one row down from where we inserted our eyes. So one row. Bring that through. We're going to skip that center stitch and go into the next stitch. And I'm going to wrap it around twice. You can wrap it around as many times as you want, depending on what size you want your nose. And then when I go into my last time going around, I'm going to come up underneath my nose in that center stitch I marked off. And this is just going to be that little line coming down. And you want to make sure it's fairly centered. So what I'm doing, I have a big hole here, but I don't want it to slide over to the side, so I'm just going to catch the tiniest little bit of yarn in the stitch beside it so it stays straight, and then I'm going to come out the bottom. Now in my original one I did do this in black and gave him a little mouth, but after I'm not sure if he needs that, but if you do, you can do that part in black, and you'll just come down one, out one side, over, up, and down with your black yarn. So just like you did the nose, but you'll be using a thin strand of black. Then we're going to tie this. And give them a cut or put them in, depending on how much yarn you have left. And now we're going to do the ears, so grab your darker brown or whatever color you're doing your ears in. And we're going to be starting with a chain, so leave yourself a little bit of a tail for attaching. And you can make your chain however you want to start. I'll be making my knot with the loop on the end. Insert your hook, and we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then in that second chain from the hook, we're going to do 6 half double crochets. And for a half double crochet, you yarn over, go into the stitch, grab your yarn, pull up. There'll be 3 loops on your stitch or your hook. Grab your yarn and go through all 3 loops. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you'll tie that off, leaving again a little bit of a tail for attaching. And we might as well do our second one as well. So again, leave some tail, start your knot however you prefer. And you're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 6 half double crochets starting in that second chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then tie off, leaving yourself a little bit of a tail. All right, now we are going to attach the ears. So decide what side you want on the front. You want both sides to be facing up when you do each side. So this is going to be my top of my ear. This is going to be the underside of my ear. And I'm going to be doing this ear first. So I'm just going to grab, so if my ear's sitting like this on this side of him, I'm going to grab my front piece of tail, thread that on. And I'm just going to find that first front loop, and we're going to be going in between rows 2 and 3. So this is 1, 2, 3. So I'm just coming to the very front of my loop, and I'm going to go into this stitch right here between rows 2 and 3. I'm kind of in the middle of the eyebrow if you look at them from the front. I'm just going to come down another row and out. So I'm going around this row here. Then you're going to thread on your other end. And I'm just going to go over a stitch. So I went in this one to begin with, skip a stitch, go into the next stitch, and then come out in the same stitch I did down at the bottom. And then I'll show you once I have it all in, it'll make a little more sense. So if this is his front, and I pull it like this, this is what it'll look like. So you have one stitch in between, and we're going to tie it right here. Nice and tight. I want to kind of make sure that knot is through there if I can, from when we started our ear. And then we'll thread those on and put them out the bottom. So in that same hole and then out the bottom. And then we're going to grab our other ear. And again, make sure you want the right side that you're facing up, whichever side you preferred on top. So I like this side. So if I hold my ear how it's going to attach, I want to grab this front piece. And again, in rows 2 or 3, or between rows 2 and 3, 1, 2, so right here, straight across from where this one is. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do one more up so I'm more in the center of that eyebrow. So 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches in between, then around that row and out. Get our other tail on. And in that same row, you're going to skip a stitch and then go into the next stitch and out. Pull those nice and tight so they're through. And then we'll give them a tie. And put them out the center. If you want to have longer ears, just chain more and then half double crochet one less than what you chained. So if you chain 15, you want 14 half double crochets. Or you can try double crochets if you want them a little wider. But I thought this was a good proportion to his size. Now these are already tied up at the top, so I'm not going to tie these before I cut them. So there's our little ears, and I just bend them in half, and they kind of do their own little thing. Then if you want to give him his little horn, we'll do that next. So I'm just grabbing a really, really light yellow. Leave yourself a bit of a tail. We're either going to weave it in or tie it on. And we're going to be chaining, so you can start however you prefer to chain. Insert your hook, and we are going to chain 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then starting in our second chain from our hook, we are going to do 3 slip stitches across. So 1, 2, 3. And now we are going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we are going to do 3 slip stitches, again starting in the second chain from the hook. So 1, and then I'm skipping this hole where our last stitch went in. 2, 3. And originally I did a decrease right here just in the front loops. I'm going to try skipping that. I think that might work better, so I'm going to skip 2 stitches and then I'm going to do 2 stitches at the bottom. 1. Oh yeah, I think that will give us a much better curve there. 2. Yep, okay, and then let's tie that off. Again, leave yourself a little bit of a tail. And we're going to tie those 2 ends together. Now I did not tack my, this one is not sewn on, so I could just pull that right out if I wanted to. It's just tied on, but I think I'm going to show you how I would tie or tack it down just in case, depending on what you're using this for. So I'm going to put one end in. I'm just going to weave that around that bottom piece right here, just so it's out of our way. You can do it a little better job if you want to, but I'm just going to get it to the back and then cut it. And then I'm just going to tack this down a couple of times so it won't move. Thread that on. So make sure it's in the center, and I'm just going to go, let's see, where do we want it? So I want it to come at least to the front of his ears, so I'm going to go in, up, and down, and out. Don't pull that too tight because it will squish it back, and then I'm just going to tie it in the back here. So it's not on there great, but it's on there enough that it's not going to move from you if it gets moved around or something, because we are going to tie a little tie around it. So I'm just tying a knot there in the back. And of course you can go around a couple more times if you want. Come out the bottom. And give that a cut. Because it was tricky to tie when it wasn't attached. So now it's at least sitting there on something. Then I'm just going to grab a little bit of black. And you want enough that'll go around the head and make a bow. Now if you have thinner thread, it will look a lot better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in one side, kind of just in the middle of the ear, straight down, and just try and get underneath the collar a little bit. Just so I originally put it here and there was a space there, and I didn't like it because it should be going under his neck. So we'll just pretend it's under his collar on his neck, and then come over to the other side, just in the middle again of his ear and just above that collar right there. You want about the same amount on both sides. And then I know it should be in front or behind his ear, but I just put it in under his ear, just so it was in the middle, really. Thread on your other end. Do the same thing. I'm just going to come under his ear. I'm not in his ear. I'm in between his head and his ear. And then you can tie his little bow. Probably a good idea to do it twice so it doesn't move. Cut those short. And then just fix your horn so it's standing up. And then let's close up this bottom. So we'll thread on our finishing tail. Oh, I could take the stitch marker out too. I'm just going to add a little bit of stuffing in the bottom so that I can't see all those ends that I had in there. And then we're just going to weave in and out of the top loop of our last row. And if you're doing it in the plush yarn, go through about half the stitches and then pull, and then go through the other half, or even less if you need to, if you're worried about it breaking. All right, I'm all the way around now. So we'll pull that nice and tight. And then if you're going to come up the top, you're going to go in the center, not the top. If you're not, just come out the back somewhere. So this horn is in my way a bit here, but there we go. Just because I did that with all the rest, I'm going to come out the top. And there we go. Our little Max to go with our Grinch. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you'll also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who has been so kind to have hit the thanks button and sent me such generous donations. You will now be listed at the end of all my next videos as my super thanks friends. Take care, be safe, and happy crocheting.